as Jess had said, I'm Kadince White. I'm 17 years old, and I recently just graduated from Owensboro High School in May. I'm a member of Redemption Place here in Owensboro, and I would just like to share a piece of my story. I'm beyond excited to be up here in front of all of you guys. If you just bear with me, this is one of the biggest things I have really ever done. So let's get started. I was 2 years of age when my brother Cameron Bradley White was born with OCT at birth. This basically means a rare genetic condition that causes ammonia to build up in the blood. That suddenly changed our entire lives. At this point in life, my father, Bradley White, was struggling with addiction and was in and out of jail as well as of our lives. So that left my mother's shadow to care for Cameron by herself. I was in between my Memel's house and Aunt Tasha's while my mother was in different cities caring for Cameron. I remember going to the Davis County Detention Center to visit my dad through the glass window and talking to him on a phone almost all of my childhood. One afternoon, me and my mother were on our ways to DC to visit my dad, and we encountered a terrible car accident. I was around about the age of 3. At the time, my mother was 9 months pregnant with our second son, Caden. We were struck by a car that ran up on a telephone pole. The pole was getting ready to snap. Due to my mother's adrenaline, she couldn't quite open the door. Quickly, a lady came and helped rescue us and opened the door to get me out before the pole snapped. We were both rushed to the hospital. My pelvic bone was fractured and I was unable to walk. I was also on a neck brace for quite some time. My mother sustained injuries that left her unable to care for Cameron and required emergency surgery. As time passes, my mom and Cameron are doing a lot of traveling for his medical needs. It took our entire family to care for Cameron. We had been told he was going to be added to the transplant list for a new liver. This was music to our ears. As we prayed and waited for that phone call, my mother got the call that they had a transplant and we had fundraised enough money to get Cameron there. But unfortunately, he didn't receive the liver this call. When the call came in that they had another liver for him, my mom had no idea how we were going to get him there. We had done so many fundraisers. Some of you in here today might have even heard of his slogan, Cameron White is ready for a fight. But little did we know our God would provide for a way to Cameron to get there to receive his new liver on 11/11/2011. This new liver would allow him to be able to eat normal things. This was going to be huge for Cameron and all of us. But unfortunately, his body rejected the liver, so he remained on his feeding tube. Summer of 2013, Make-A-Wish granted us a trip to Disney World. I remember feeling peace and everyone smiling and just having the time of our lives. It was me, my mom, my grandmother, Cameron, and Caden. My mom was also pregnant with twins at the time, full term at that. But on this trip, we weren't caught up in Cameron's medical needs or anything else we were going through at the time. We were just enjoying the moment in time we all had together. Those days were a magical time for my family, one that I will always hold near to my heart. Fast forward to January 2014, my mother gave birth to my beautiful twin sisters. And shortly after that amazing blessing, our family had now grown. I had my mother, my 2 brothers, and 2 baby sisters. However, my dad was still in and out of jail. But on October 29th, 2014, Cameron departed to heaven. This is a day that I'll never forget. I had stayed at my grandmother's house, and she ran to the house to pick the boys up for school. As Memo went to check on Cameron, she started screaming. I still hear that scream in the back of my head today. Our next door neighbor came and got me and Caden, and as we were watching, I seen the ambulance pull up. Shortly after, Memel came and got us and took us to school. However, I just knew something wasn't right. I seen Memel talking to the teachers and the principals and everybody at school that morning. After school, I got home, and Cameron was not home like normal. There wasn't a conversation he had gone to heaven. It was more of just like an understanding, as we all helped to care for him and his needs. As my mom and Memo were preparing for Cameron's funeral, during this time, my brain is foggy as to how everything played out. But I remember seeing Cameron in the casket and running away and telling my mom, "That's not my brother, that's not my Cameron." I remember my dad being present at the funeral, which it had been some time since I had seen him. I remember thinking it was odd my mom and dad were in the same room. At this time in my life, they were not getting along. I remember feeling so many emotions that I chose to stay in the nursery rather than the sanctuary during the funeral. The sanctuary I attend church in on Sundays. That sanctuary brings me so many memories and emotions. I was so hurt from losing my best friend, my brother, my first sibling. But as time went on, we began to heal. My mom and dad reconciled the relationship. They are pressing in, and our entire family is attending Wing Avenue Baptist Church. My dad had enrolled into pastoral school. God had laid it on his heart that he was supposed to be a pastor. I just remember being so proud of him, and he was doing good for our family. Fast forward to May 1st, 2015, my parents got married. I was so excited for once in my entire life. We were all back together since Cameron's passing, something I've always wanted and prayed for. Not to mention my dad was sober, something I didn't see a lot in the past. We are all finally grieving and moving forward in life together. A few months later, that dream that we all had and loved quickly changed into a nightmare. My dad relapsed, and shortly after my mother and him separated, my dad went down a dark path. My dad had been incarcerated again and had gotten out and was going down a great path. He had his sobriety and his new girlfriend. He was getting me and Kaden every other weekend and some days during the week. This was a time that I was closest to my dad. This was a great year and a half of my life. Shortly after, him and my amazing stepmom had split up. Nights after, he took me and Kaden bowling in Tell City. And my dad got drunk and he drove us home. All I remember that night is going down the wrong way down the road. I remember being so scared in the moment. I just wanted to go home to my mom, but I ended up being stuck at his house that night after I didn't go back over around him for almost an entire year. During that year, my mom had moved in with her long-term boyfriend, Brad. I really started to build that father-daughter relationship with Brad. I was also blessed with a bonus sister, Savannah. Again, after I felt like we had a family again. First time I had felt peace again since my parents were married. We had a house, a family to fill it full of laughter and memories. My mom and Brad had sat down and talked to me again about going to see my dad, but he wasn't sober and I knew that. Something still wasn't right with him. Once I started going over there again, me and my bonus sister had started butting heads really bad. I had asked my dad if I could move in with him, and he said yes. Even though I knew something still wasn't right, I was enjoying the time I was getting with him and the bond we were forming. About a week later, he had told me I could move in with him. My mom's boyfriend had come to check me out of school. I remember him coming in there and crying, and the first thing I went through my head was, no, something is wrong with my mother. I started getting chills. I started breaking down crying. I just knew something wasn't right. I was thinking something happened. As soon as we pull into the driveway, I walk into the house. I was so happy to see my mom at the kitchen table, but I knew something so bad had happened. It was the look on my Aunt Tamara's face and my mom. They told me and Kaden to sit down at the kitchen table and explain to us that our father had passed away. I immediately got mad and angry and confused. Why? There were so many stories going on of how or what had happened to my dad, but in the moment, none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered to me was my dad was gone. I had now lost my brother, who was my best friend, and now I lost my father, who was my rock. I was mad. God, why would you do that? Why would you take my father and my brother? Why, Lord? Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. As time was passing, I was still grieving the loss of my father and the fact that he unfortunately took his own life. Still so many unanswered questions that I had, but luckily I had Brad, my mom's boyfriend, to lean on during this time. We move forward a couple years. My mom's boyfriend, Brad, relapses, and this flips our entire world upside down yet again. What started out to be a small addiction problem that was easy for him to hide from us quickly became a full-blown addiction. That took our family down a road of destruction and pain. I quickly became in a very dark place again. What was once a happy home was now a battlefield. As this took my mother down a path I wasn't sure she would come out of. Me and my bonus sister tried our best to help with the little kids, to take things off my mom's plate. I know my mom was so strong, she encountered things and hindered some of it from being exposed to us. There is a part of this story that just isn't mine to share, so I will say that in the storm we were in, there were many times I didn't know if my mom would make it out alive. I remember being in the closet with my younger siblings, praying and calling people to come over to rescue my mom. Even though sometimes it just made it worse, I just knew I needed help, but I wasn't sure how. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future, Jeremiah 29:11. My mother finally decided she had enough, packed our entire home in one day, and we never looked back. We had a home to ourselves, just me, my mom, Kaden, the twins, Bray, and my new bonus sister, Savannah. Life was once again starting to look normal again. Worship team, you can go ahead and come up. I'm now the first high school graduate, and in less than 2 weeks, I will be pursuing my college dreams at Northern Kentucky University with my best friend, Ariana. I was always in and out of church. After my father's passing, after a few encounters, I decided to get myself back into church. My childhood church was Wing Avenue. That's where I was raised. So me ending up praising Jesus at Redemption Place, that is in the old Wing Avenue building, is no coincidence. That is where I belong. That is where I feel at home. That is where I'm closest to my brother Cam and closest to my dad Bradley, who also attended Wing Avenue. Through this testimony, I know that you all will see this as hurt and pain, but what I see is growth in my relationship with Christ. Without that relationship, I wouldn't be here today. During those storms when I questioned God and was so mad and so alone, I look back now and see during those times is when he was carrying me. Through God, I have grieved the loss of my brother and dad. I can live in freedom now only found in Jesus Christ. Thank you, guys.